So, in this particular session, we are going to talk on leadership and excellence in context of New Education Policy 2020. As you all know that after many decades, there were many changes has been proposed in this new education policy, and obviously there is a lot of expectation from all the corners, especially the teaching community and definitely the students also. So if you look into this issue of leadership, this has been a major focus in education, and somebody said very nicely, JF Kennedy said it, that leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. When we are talking about leadership, we are also talking about learning. So obviously, this new education policy 2020 has so many expectations from different corners. Recently, the new education minister has said that the new education policy to turn India into a global knowledge hub. So how ultimately we are planning to achieve this leadership position when we are talking about global knowledge hub? So now look into the new education policy 2020. How it has been talking about in terms of leadership. The first thing it has been talking about that India's continued ascent for the leadership on the global stage. As I said you, that was the very clear-cut message from the minister also. So the whole idea of bringing this new education policy is to establish India as a global knowledge hub. And obviously in this whole idea of making India as in a knowledge hub, there is a very important role where we have been expecting that everybody has to play what we call every stakeholder in this whole process, be it in a student, be it in a teacher, and be it in an institutions. And obviously all the senior administrative leadership positions. So that is the first and foremost important thing which we have to understand, that NEP 2020 has a very, very clear message regarding this leadership role, which we have to plan for our student if you are a teacher. And obviously you have to plan it in a way that your own people should grow as a very effective and good leader, educational leader, and obviously they can convert, as I said, India as a global knowledge hub. It is based on the principle that education must develop not only the cognitive skills.
I don't know.
Hello.
Can you mute yourself from your side?
Others are requested to mute yourself.
Yes, please do not disturb in the middle of the conference.
I was talking about another very important dimension of new education policy, which has been talking that it is based on the principle that education must develop not only cognitive skills, both the fundamental skills of literacy and numeracy, and higher order cognitive skills such as critical thinking and problem solving, but also talking about the social and emotional skills, also referred as soft skills, including cultural awareness, empathy, perseverance, and grit and teamwork, leadership, communication, and others. So obviously, when we are talking about converting India into a global knowledge hub, where our student has to play a very, very important role, we need to focus on developing a different sets of the skills, which including the fundamental skills, including literacy and numeracy, higher order cognitive skills. We have been talking about critical thinking and problem solving, and as well as social and emotional skills, which we have been classified as soft skill, also including the leadership. The new education policy further has been talking about, if you look into from the leadership perspective, that they said that the curriculum integration of essential subjects and skills, if you refer 4.2.3, which says that while students must have a large amount of flexibility in choosing their individual curricula, certain subject and skills should be learned by all the students to become good, successful, innovative, adaptable, productive human beings in today's rapidly changing world. again, very, very important when we are talking about this flexibility, should be developed among our learners, among our students, then obviously we have to prepare our teachers also for that. Then how to do that, we'll definitely look into the coming slides. The second important point in terms of curriculum integration has been talking about the India's leadership role in the numerous upcoming fields and professions that will involve artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science. Although the new education policy has talked about only these three important areas, but it doesn't mean that they all are fixed, because probably they are more relevant as on today, 2021. But they may not be that much relevant in 2025. But obviously, we have to remember the flexibility which has already been talked in previous classes, where it says that you have to keep on talking about upcoming fields and professions, and then you keep on moving on to those upcoming fields and cutting edge technologies. And then definitely you have to prepare your students for taking those important leadership role in future. And obviously for that, as I said, we have to prepare our teachers and educational administrators. Now coming into the issue of teachers and administrators. So this is outstanding teachers and administrators to be taken to the leadership positions. That's very, very important. Until unless you are not making that system in place, probably whatever you have been talking about may not have going to give you results. So how to get the result of this NEP 2020, that we have to talk about these outstanding teachers and administrators, and then identifying them, preparing them, identifying them, and then taking them to the leadership positions. Leaders such as school principals and school complex leaders will have a similar modular or leadership or management workshops and online development opportunities and platforms to continuously improve their own leadership. So it has further going on to that issue and saying that that one should not only completely relying on chance, that the person who has been moving in leadership position may have a leadership qualities and may not have the leadership quality. So it has been very, very clear on that. NEP 2020 is very clear on that. It is saying that there has to be a provision of modular leadership management workshops, offline, online, both, and proper opportunity should be given to everybody, and then allow them to develop those leadership qualities among them. And then obviously in future, they should be taken to the leadership positions. Another important dimension in the NEP 2020 is talking about leadership aspects of their job, with a focus on preparing and implementing pedagogical plans based on competency and outcome-based education. So it has been saying that when we are talking about leadership role, it is not only limited to the administrative domain and administrative improvement. It has been also talking about the academic innovations and academic involvement of the administrator, and how it can be done. It can be done by bringing new pedagogical plans, which should be based on competency and outcome-based education. And obviously, as you all know, most of the professional degrees now in India has already falling under the accreditation. There is a National Board of Accreditation, NBA for engineering and pharmacy and management programs, and that's now becoming mandatory for them. So all those institutions which has already been gone for this NBA accreditation must be knowing there's so many different provisions has been now in NBA, which is basically the same which we have been talking about here. How to convert our existing education system into a competency and outcome-based education system. So that's already been there. If you are further looking at NEP 2020 in context of the leadership, it has been saying the vertical mobility of teachers based on merit will also be paramount. Outstanding teachers with demonstrated leadership and management skill would be trained over a period of time to take academic leadership positions. Very, very categorical on that again and again, as I said you. In fact, before also there was some reference, and now again that difference have come when it has been talking about the vertical mobility of teachers from a teaching position to a leadership position, academic leadership positions. They say that it has to be completely based on merit. Okay, and outstanding teachers with demonstrative leadership and management skills should also be given opportunity for attending training programs and developing those skills, and then they have been taken to those leadership positions. It has been further talking about that when we are taking these individuals to the leadership positions, what are those things which is expected from them. So they say that inclusion and equity will become the key aspect of teacher education or training for all leadership, administrative, and other positions. So it has been talking about that it is not only the hardcore management or leadership tools which these teachers should learn, they should also learn inclusion and equity, which is more fall under the social domain of leadership program and management program. So they say that these administrators should have higher sensitivity in terms of the others' problem. So they should understand them, and then they can use the inclusion and equity concept while they are administrating the institutions and other academic activities. This NEP 2020 is somewhere is very harsh, and especially when we are talking about higher education institutions. It has been very categorically been mentioning about the suboptimal governance and leadership in higher education institutions. In my opinion, this is very harsh comment, and in a document like NEP should definitely, if it has been mentioning that, it means that when those who have prepared the document are highly concerned about the governance and leadership issues in higher education institutions, and that is the reason why they have mentioned it so categorically. So that has been mentioned very clearly. So now how to work on that and make our higher education institution as a global institution. So they say that reaffirming the integrity of faculty and institution leadership positions through merit appointments and career progression based on teaching, research, and service. So it has been further talking about that when you are talking about the leadership position in higher education institutions, then they should completely based on merit. And so all those appointments should be merit-based appointments, and other kinds of career progressions also should be merit-based. And where the merit should be seen in terms of teaching, in terms of research, and in terms of services. So obviously, the good teachers should be taken to the leadership positions so that so the teaching should get recognized at higher level, and obviously this will be having a greater impact in future. And so as the research also. So they say that all those people who have been taking the leadership position in a higher education institution should be a good researcher and themselves, and which should be exhibited by their work, and obviously when they take a leadership position, they can further take these things in their institutions. It has been further talking about in terms of excellence. Excellence will be further incentivized through appropriate rewards, promotions, recognitions, and movement into institutional leadership. That's another very, very important, that when you are talking about the excellence in our academic institutions, then excellence has to be incentivized in terms of obviously rewards, promotions, recognitions, and movement into the institutional leadership positions. And then finally, it says that high quality institutional leadership is extremely important for the success of institutions and its faculty. So it's very, very categorical on that, that how the higher education institutions leadership should be chosen. They say that it should be chosen on merit, and merit in terms of their teaching, research, and service. And they say that it should be recognized, and it should keep on rewarding by different way, incentivized by different ways. And they say that this is extremely important for the success of higher education institutions and its faculty members. I believe that one of the policy document has been very, very clear on its in actions. So when an issue of converting these things into action comes in, probably the clarity become very important, and I believe that they are very, very clear on that. We'll definitely see the implementation issue also later on. Now next on, again on leadership and excellence with reference to NEP 2020, how it has been talking about. it has been talking about the various outstanding faculty with high academic and service credentials, as well as demonstrated leadership and management skills, will be identified early and trained through a ladder of leadership positions. Leadership positions shall remain vacant, but rather an overlapping time period during transition in leadership shall be a norms to ensure the smooth running of the institutions. And the very important issue has been addressed here. Institutional leaders will aim to create a culture of excellence that will motivate and incentivize outstanding and innovative teaching, research, and institutional service and community outreach from faculty members. I believe that one of the beautiful document has been created by way of NEP 2020. It has so clear, categorically clear, that how the different leadership positions should be filled. So obviously, when you understand, it has been very clearly said that as far as the leadership position in higher education institutions are concerned, the only consideration should be the merit in terms of their teaching, research, and service. Second, they have been talking about that whenever there is a tenure of the first person is going to over, before the tenure over, the second person should be appointed and be trained before that the first person leave. That's also been very categorically been mentioned in NEP 2020. So there should not be any vacant time, what we call vacuum period that has been created, because it's my own experience, and I'm sure the experience of most of you also is there, that we have a very common practice of such vacuum periods in our institutions, especially if you are working in a government institutions. And obviously during these vacuum times, things are not being managed properly. And so very, very clear on that also. And thirdly, they have also talked about the culture of excellence has to be created among the institutions, within the institutions, among the faculty members, so the merit can be seen, and all those considerations has already been talked about in NEP 2020. So very, very clear on that. If you look into the NEP 2020, there is a point number 19, which has been also talking about effective governance and leadership for higher education institutions. So whatever I've talked about, it has already been mentioned here and there in the different sections. But on the section number 19 on the policy, which is exclusively talking about effective governance and leadership for higher education institutions. So some of the important issues in that is existence of strong self-governance and outstanding merit-based appointment of institutional leader. So very, very important issue again been addressed here. The first is the self-governance, strong self-governance. Existence of strong self-governance has been talking about in terms of autonomy, as we all know. So autonomy has already been given, but how many institutions are actually enjoying the true spirit of autonomy? That's a very big question mark. Our experience so far is that autonomy is still being there on papers. Institutions has still not been enjoying the full autonomy. There may be different reasons for them, and one among them is their financial dependence on government or any other agencies. So that is very, very important point, which has been addressed here. And not in that way that but some of the financial things have already been there mentioned in the policy also, and they have been very categorical on that also, that the proper funding should be ensured for the institution, so that the institution's leaders should not be forced to make any kind of compromise on that. So existence of strong self-governance mechanism is again a very key word here, which we can understand is already been mentioned in the policy document itself. And then again, same thing, outstanding merit-based appointment for leadership positions. And then again, to ensure the leadership of the highest quality and promotes the culture of excellence. The idea is that if we are able to talk about in these terms of having a strong self-governance mechanism within the institutions, and we are able, and as I said that the financial flow for the institution should also be made smooth. I'm sure that this is going to ensure a very highest level of leadership quality, which promotes the culture of excellence within the institutions. And all leadership positions, not only the head in the institution, must be offered to persons with high academic qualifications and demonstrated administrative and leadership capabilities, along with ability to manage complex situations. Again, very well said in this document and NEP 2020, that how you can identify a person. So they say that you have to see their academic performance, you have to see their personal traits, and you have to see their past experience also while you are identifying them as an institutional head. And at the same time, they should also be seen in terms of handling the complex situations. While stability of tenure is important to ensure the development of suitable culture, at the same time, leadership succession will be planned with care to ensure that the good practice that define the institution processes do not end due to the change in leadership. Leadership change will come with sufficient overlap and not remain backend in order to ensure smooth transition. Again, as I said you, that this is a beautiful document prepared for the future of Indian education, where we have been talking about converting India into a global knowledge hub. So how to do that? In fact, it has been talking about very well in terms of stability of tenure. And it's also been talking about developing the culture of excellence. And they say that the culture of excellence should not stop when there is a change of person. So how you can ensure it that this should not stop? Then they have been talking about the overlapping of leadership. There should be a proper smooth transition of the change of leadership. So before a person, one person go as an institutional head, the next person should join before that, so that he can understand all those processes and practices which has been there into the institutions, what is their significance, why they have been placed. And obviously, this way, they say that we can ensure that there should not be any vacuum created because of the change of the leadership. Further, this has been talking about while being provided with adequate funding, as I said you before, they have already talked about that. Autonomy and legislative enablement, higher education institutions in turn will display commitment to institutional excellence, engagement with their local communities, and highest standard of financial probity and accountability. It's very, very important. So we have already talked about that, how to ensure the quality leadership in higher education institutions. We have already talked about that the proper and adequate funding, smooth funding has to be ensured. But a higher education institution should also should understand that once they are getting the funds from the government or any other funding agencies, over a period of time, it is their responsibility to develop the capability to generate some of the resources themselves. Okay, what we call internal revenue generation. Again, very, very important. IRR. So internal revenue generation, IRG, are very, very important for the higher education institutions by way of their activities. So they should plan activities in such a way that they start getting some money from their activities. So that is one very, very important point has been talking about in this policy. Autonomy and legislative enablement has been talking about in this case. Another very important issue which has been talking in this policy document is local communities. That's a major area where many of the Indian institutions, higher education institutions, are having very, very low score when talking about their involvement with the local communities. It has been found that, that their involvement with the local communities is not up to the mark. So that is the reason why, because when you are going for the global ranking procedures, they have a lot of emphasis on local communities and engagement with the local communities. I still remember I was in Harvard University in 2010, where I was told that Harvard University has worked for the Boston municipal community, municipal corporation, the local municipal corporation, to address some of the social ills like drug problem. So drug problem was there in the Boston city, and the Harvard University has come out a research project on for that, and then later on they have made certain suggestions also to the local government that how to address the issue of drug abusing in the city of Boston. So see, if you're talking about to be in a global institutions, you have to look into the local communities. And obviously, highest standards of financial probity and accountability is must. So how to achieve that? The BOG of each higher education institutions will anchor preparation and implementation of a strategic plan of actions, namely Institutional Development Plan, IDP. So that is the reason why now IDP become the integral part of NBA, National Accreditation Board, as well as NAC also. I'm sure that this must be the part of NAC also, although I'm not been exposed much to the NAC procedures, because mainly we have been dealing with NBA. But I'm sure that IDP must be there also in NAC also, because that is definitely there in NBA. So institutional development plan has to be the integral part of the overall management of the institutions. And then finally, we have come to the implementation, where this whole 5 days FDP has been talking about how to implement the new education policy. So all those things which we have just talked about earlier has basically been talking in terms of the guidance and the policy statements. Now, how to implement that? That's very, very challenging, as we all know. And earlier, also, we have a beautiful document created for the policy in India. But what was our experience was that whenever the implementation of those policy comes in, we are sometimes are not as good as what we supposed to be. So how to implement this new education policy 2020 become very, very important. And I believe that one of the biggest challenge in front of all of us who belongs to this academic fraternity, because if we have to achieve the letter and spirit of NEP 2020, we have to focus more on implementation part of it. So any policy is only good as its implementation. Such implementation will require multiple initiative and actions, which will have to be taken by multiple bodies in a synchronized and a systematic manner. So obviously, if you look into the whole document of NEP, which has been talking about education in schools, education in colleges, education in professional bodies, and then research in higher education institutions. So this synchronization is needed. Whatever, see, ultimately, if you're talking about good students in college, you have to look into the schools for that matter. Until and unless schools are not developing the leadership and excellence among their students, you cannot develop these skills in the college. So obviously, when we are talking about the synchronization of the whole implementation plan of NEP 2020, we have to look into every body which has to implement the NEP 2020, whether it is in a school, whether it's in colleges, whether it's in professional bodies, or whether it is in research institutions and other labs. So that is how it has been talking about the synchronization, which has been talking. If you look into the implementation part of the policy, it has basically been divided into 4 parts. The first part has been talking about the implementation of a spirit and intent of a policy will be the most critical matter. While the policy provides much detail, the intent and the spirit of the policy must serve as the most important consideration. So obviously, if while we are implementing NEP 2020, some point in time, you may find some guidance when you're looking, some guidance from NEP 2020, you may not find in words. So he said that if you're not finding some guidance in terms of words, you have to look into the spirit of the policy. Okay. So it is very, very important. What I believe that all those who have been attending this program would going to be a future leader. And I'm sure that most of you would be executing this policy in your institutions. So whenever you are referring this policy document and you are finding that something which you are looking at in this document is missing, in your opinion, probably they say that you have to look into the spirit of the policy rather than the words. So that's very, very important. You have to look into the spirit and intent rather than the words. So that's a very, very important. They have been very well understood. The policy maker that the earlier policies has been alleged that they have been silent on this. So they say that don't say that the policy is silent on that. If you are finding that this policy is silent on a certain issues, look into the spirit and intent of the policy, and then you take a decision. So very well said, and I believe that this has actually covered majority of the gray areas in the earlier policy documents. Second, it is important to implement policy initiative in a phased manner. That's another very important issue. Rather than trying to implement everything which has been talked in this policy document, they say that better to move in a phased manner. I'll just show you some of the examples comparing India and US, where you can understand that how US system, which has already been got matured over a period of time in terms of education leadership programs. So that has been ultimately our objective is, but we have started, we have a modest beginning. I'll just show you some of the initiatives taken by Government of India. The third is prioritizations will be important in ensuring optimal sequencing of policy points. So obviously, we have to prioritize what we want first to be addressed, and then over a period of time, we have to achieve the other important things which has been mentioned into the policy document. And fourth is the comprehensiveness in implementation will be the key. As this policy is interconnected and holistic, only a full-fledged implementation will ensure the desired objectives are achieved. Very, very important that when we are talking about the implementation of NEP 2020, it should be applied, it should be implemented full. Okay, the half-hearted approach would be very dangerous and would be leading to nowhere rather than to any destination. So that is how this whole policy document has been created, now some of the initiative which has been taken by Government of India, keeping the new education policy NEP 2020. Very interesting thing under Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Training. They have started in a program called LEAP. LEAP stands for Leadership for Academicians Program. Is a 3-week flagship leadership program, development training programs, 2-week domestic within India and 1 week outside India. That is the plan, and the second level academic functionaries are the target for that. The whole idea is that those who have been attending the program probably going to take a leadership position in the near future. So that is how the whole idea is, especially designed for higher academic education institutions, HEIs. As you can see, the objective is to prepare a second tier of academic heads who are potentially likely to be assume the leadership roles in near future. The purpose is to fulfill long perceived need for the preparing senior faculty such as deans, HODs for the leadership roles. Skill equips are problem solving, handling stress, team building, conflict management, communication skills, understanding and coping with complexities, challenge of governance, and other financial and general administration. So that is how this whole program has been designed. Although the last 2 years, this program has been affected largely because of. So, yes, Sanjeev Kumar ji, any query? Sanjeev Kumar ji, do you have a query? So anyway, I'll give you time to ask your questions. Let me just finish the first part of it. So this LEAP was a very interesting initiative taken by Government of India, MHRD, Ministry of Education, and as I said, this LEAP was mainly affected because of the pandemic, COVID pandemic. The last 2 years, many of the programs have to be stopped halfway. Only domestic part has been done. The remaining part, third week part has been left. So that way we have been struggling. But the whole idea is that we have started this, the Government of India started this very interesting initiative. Some 15 institutions in the country has been identified as a moderating institution for that. So they have been doing it. And there are different kinds of arrangement has been worked out with foreign universities. Many of the US based universities also there. This program is one of the important outcome of the new education policy. The second initiative under again Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching is called CALM, Center of Academic Leadership and Education Management. So there's another interesting initiative has been taken for everybody, including the school teachers also. So that is how this whole program has been designed. And if you look into the vision of this program is to develop educational managers who are able to coordinate the efforts of all stakeholders in order to improve the effectiveness of the organization. Very, very important, because many times we understand that we are trying to do something good for the society, for a larger society, for everybody, but there are different kinds of hindrances comes in. So these are the programs where we can do that. The mission is to set up institutions of national repute and standards for leadership development suited to the school and higher education institutions. So as I said you that this is more holistic in their approach. They are not only including higher education institutions, they are taking schools also along with them. As I said you before, schools are the raw material for the higher education institutions. So we have to take them also. Objective is to evolve a systematic program on training needs of top functionaries and institutional heads, such as vice chancellors, pro-vice chancellors, dean, head of postgraduate departments, principals, vice chancellors, principals of colleges, then entry-level orientation training from different functional proficiency and attitude orientation for teachers who can take up the future leadership role, to provide specialized area training in selected issues of critical relevance and especially with the view to enhancing institutional quality and innovation, and to create a pool of academic managers in school education, and to develop a training resource for academic managers of DIETs and state educational and research and training institutions for their teachers' education. So this is how all is planned in these two important initiatives under the Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Training, which is basically taken under the preview of New Education Policy 2020. So now we have come to the leadership focus. So how leadership becoming more and more important? If you remember, we have already talked the John F. Kennedy's quote for that leadership and learnings are indispensable. Both are go together. So now similarly comes to the leadership focus when we are talking about the leadership. So leadership is second only to the classroom instructions among all school related factors that contribute to what students learn at school. So very, very important. They say that the same thing what can be said in the earlier context, that they are indispensable. So leadership is very, very important right from the class 1, the first class which a child attained, and we have to make in a system in which they should be given a proper opportunity to develop their leadership skills and they can able to exhibit them. So as you all know, they have been talking about the teacher as a leader. Leader are educators working in roles that include both direct instruction and administrative duties, and there is a wide range of teachers leaders role, from informal roles in which teachers choose to take a few leadership responsibility, to formal roles wherein a significant portion of work is spent on leadership tasks rather than teaching. And the leadership tasks that leaders suppose tend to be instructionally focused, that's providing performance feedback, developing school priorities, rather than administrative, that is managing budgets or scheduling. So that is how we have defined when we are talking about converting teachers into a leader, that he has to look at things in this way. See, the knowledge, skill, and dispositions requisite for the success of future educational leader has to be seen. To focus on attaining educational success for every student can be ensured only by way of converting our existing teacher into a teacher leader rather than only a teacher, and then guide students towards reaching educational achievement and equity with broader community. That's very, very important. As I said that our new education policy has been very categorical on local community involvement. So as I said that I'll also tell you some of the initiative taken in USA regarding this educational leadership training programs. Some initiative I've already shared with you, like in terms of LEAP and CALM, which has already been taken under new education policy in India. So obviously we are at the nascent stage, we are at a very beginning stage, and we have to achieve many milestones now in years to come. But you have to look into the a system where these things are already been established much better vis-a-vis Indian systems, because we are very new to this. So how this US people have developed over a period of time their national education leadership preparation, what they call NELP program standards, building level. So what is NELP, which was earlier known as the ELCC, the National Education Leadership Preparation Standards, were developed by a committee comprised of essential stakeholders communities from across the country. These preparation standards, formerly known as Educational Leadership Constituent Councils, have been renamed as National Educational Leadership Preparation Standards and will be used to guide program designs, accreditation, review, and state program. So how these standards has been developed, that's one part of it. Then how it has been implemented, that's the second part of it. And the third part of it, how we have been improving it, the system, by way of collecting information and data through our implementation and identifying the gaps, and then by by taking different initiatives, we try to fill those gaps. So that is the beauty of this system. That is how they have developed that. So how this professional standard for educational leaders, which is commonly known as a PSEL, reflects the following leadership domain. So when they are talking about that the educational leaders, so what they are expected that the education leaders should do, that what they should do. So they say that when we are talking about different leadership domain that they have categorized in 10, they say that the first important thing is the mission, vision, and improvement of an education institution. That should be the first thing which every teacher, every educational leader should have, that skill, that he should understand it, then he can craft a good vision and convert those vision into different missions, and then different missions can be taken into a plan, and the plan has to be executed, and there should be an improvement seen into the system. So that is the first part. They say that every educational leader should have, as far as the PSEL is concerned, which is in a US standards, but we can definitely learn it from them. The second, they have been talking about ethics and professional norms. Again, very, very important. As we all know, teaching is a very noble profession, and we all we come to this profession because of a different region, but one region could be this also, because this is a good profession in our opinion. So obviously those ethics we have to follow, and over a period of time we have to develop professional norms for that, and we have to standardize them, and we have to make a system in which we can ensure it that every teacher should fulfill those professional norms. As far as the education, school education is concerned, as we all know that there are B.Ed kind of qualification has been there. Although NEP 2020 is on very harsh on existing teachers training and teachers education program, especially this B.Ed program, and they have raised a serious question on the quality of such education. But definitely, whatever the lacunas are, they should be identified, and the gap should be filled. The idea is we can improve the existing system if we understand and if we have a wish to improve on them. So obviously the ethics and professional norms are very, very important for educational leaders. Then comes equity and cultural responsiveness. Obviously the teacher is something like they say that is the head of the family, which is responsible for everybody. So that kind of feeling, that kind of equity should be there with educational leaders. And the cultural responsiveness, country like India, which has got such a variety within country, I believe that the cultural responsiveness is very natural in Indians. So obviously the Indian education system should also appreciate this cultural responsiveness, what we call diversity. So that diversity has to be understood and diversity has to be respected. Then comes curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Obviously, this is one of the most important part of any education institutions. What we are going to teach, how we are going to teach, and how we are going to assess. Sorry. Curriculum, instruction, and assessment is the fourth important domain in any leadership program. And they say that any educational leader should be very good, very skillful on this, about the curriculum, about the instruction, and about the assessment. Okay, institutions like NITTTR have developed their expertise on these areas. Obviously, in future also, we are ready to accept the future challenges, and we'll definitely work on all three different parts, and we can definitely give a good input and to anyone who has been interested in these areas. Then comes community of care and support for students. Fifth important domain for the leadership, especially for the educational leadership, for excellence, is that they should have a community of care and support for students. The sixth one is a professional capacity of school personnel. So we have already talked about professional norms. Now we have been talking about capacity. So obviously we should, expected is that we should perform much ahead to the norms. Okay, it is not that some norms has been fixed so we can stop ourselves by reaching to the norms. They say that there should be an environment where the teachers should perform beyond the norms. Okay, they should fix much higher norms for the future generations. So professional capacity for school personnel, professional community for teachers and staff, again same thing, meaningful engagement of families and communities. Okay, what they call parents teachers meet. PTM now has been buzzword now right now as far as MP is concerned, and Madhya Pradesh School Education Department is also now emphasizing on PTM, that you should keep on talking to the parents of the students also. The teacher should meet them, should talk to them. Okay, so they say that's a meaningful engagement of families, and any educational leader should have been skillful on that how to involve the parents of the students with the teachers. Then operations and management, overall operations of an institution, whether it's a school or in a college, and its management is very, very important. And then finally, school improvement. Whatever we are, this is more of a business thinking here. Okay, in business, we always talk about the growth. Similarly, we are talking about the growth of the institutions. What we are today and what we are expecting in future to achieve. So that is how this has to be. And all these different domains, all these 10 domains which we have just seen, has been classified in 7 standards. So these are the 7 standards which we have to understood. Standard 1 is mission, vision, improvement. Standard 2, ethics and professional norm. Standard 3 is equity, inclusiveness, and cultural responsiveness. Standard 4 is learning and instruction. Standard 5 is community and external leadership. Standard 6 is operations and management, and standard 7 is building professional capacity. So all domain of leadership, education leadership, has been classified in these 7 standards for the assessment purpose. Because in their system, the beauty of their system is that they are able to assess every individual into the system. And after assessing them, they understand it, what are the areas where he needs further input. Okay, so they can arrange a special training for those individuals who need a special, who can have identified as in a gap somewhere, and they can be given a special input on them. And obviously, this way, they can prepare their professionals to take up the leadership positions, and they can prepare themselves for the future positions. So very interesting part of US-based system, which they have been talking about as a continuum of development. So continuum of development has got this 4 part directed towards standards, which we have just talked about. That is the basis which has been defined. Then approaches to the standards, how you can reach there. Then the third would be meet the standards. And the 4th is the exemplifies the standards. You cross the standard and set a new standards for others. So how to do that? They say that the progression of continuation is you have to move from awareness to implementation. You have to move from reaction to proactive. You have to move from basic to complex. You have to move from individual to shared. You have to move from incidental to strategic. You have to move from independent to systemic. And you have to move from compliant to innovative. So that is how they have been talking about when we are talking about giving training to our pupil to take up a future leadership role in Indian academic systems. So there has to be a progression of continuum, and this looks like this. This is the way of. Few more input on that. The element 1, there are certain elements which has been suggested again in their documents. The first element they have been talking about student-centered vision. Very important. So a development and implementation of shared vision. So the vision has to be a shared vision. Okay, and that is again is a very important responsibility of a leader, that he can involve every individual into this system, what we call stakeholder, every stakeholder into the system, and then everybody think about that shared vision. Everybody can figure out the some portion of the vision for himself or herself. So education leaders facilitate the development and implementation of shared vision of learning and growth of all students. Obviously, students are the core into the whole activity. So we have to look into the students. This has got a different part. The 1A they called student-centered vision. Leaders shape a collective vision that uses multiple measures of data and focuses on equitable access, opportunities, and outcomes of all the students. So what you have to remember here is that you have to not only plan and take the shared vision, but you have to, at the same time, you have to ensure it that the proper document should be created and they should be shared. They should be first keep within the institutions properly, and they should be shared. Because if you look into the philosophy of NBA, National Board of Accreditation, when we go for accreditation as a team member, we basically look at those documents. And on the basis of those documents only, we award a marks, and that marks become the baseline for giving accreditation or not. So the idea of the American system is that they basically help these individuals to learn to make those documents and make them in such a manner that that's become an institutional system. And over a period of time, those documents become a baseline document for whether NAAC or an NBA. So any kind of such activity you can take up. So as I said, 1A is a student-centered vision when we are talking about shared vision. 1B is being called as a developing shared vision. So it should be student-centered, but that has to be developed over a period of time. Okay, whatever we are stating today probably need revision, and we have been correcting and improving it over a period of time. How you can develop a shared vision? Leader engage others in collaborative process to develop a vision of teaching and learning that is shared and supported by all stakeholders. And again, that 4 level which we have already talked about, it should be directed at standard. It should be, there should be approach to the standard. They should meet the standard and then exemplify this. So that's 4 level for all. Then 1C, 1A, 1B, B, we have already seen. 1C is vision planning and implementation. How to develop a vision. This is a very skillful activity. If somebody thinks who is sitting in this classroom and that he can make a vision by browsing here and there are the different institutional visions and make a vision for his institutions, he is grossly wrong. This is not the way to develop a vision. Leaders guide and monitor decisions, actions, and outcomes using a shared vision. That's only possible when you involve everybody. Okay, everybody who is there with you in the institutions, all stakeholders should be involved, and that is we call vision planning and implementation. Again, at all 4 levels. So first we have seen 1A. Now look into the element 2A. The 2A is professional learning culture. Okay, so instructional leadership, the academic leaders has to be, or leaders in academic institution has to be instructional leaders. Instructional leaders means that he should himself or herself should be a good teacher. Then only you become an instructional leader. Education leaders shape a collaborative culture of teaching and learning informed by professional standards and focused on student and professional growth. Very, very important. So one should believe on this kind of learning culture, professional learning culture, then only you can be a great educational leader. So what is this professional learning culture means? Leaders promotes a culture in which staff engage in individual and collective professional learning that results in their continuous improvement and high performance. Okay, again, directed towards standards, approaches to the standards, meet the standards and exemplify this. Establish a new standards. We look into the 2B, which is basically related to the curriculum and instructions. So leader guide and support the implementation of a standard-based curriculum, instruction and assessment that address students' expectation and outcomes. So again, all 4 levels. And 2C is assessment and accountability. Leaders develop and use assessment and accountability systems to monitor, improve, and extend educator practice, program outcomes, and students' learning. Okay. And then 3A, yes. Am I audible? Ms. Joshi, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
So the element 3, which has got again two part 3, maybe a little more part 3A is talking about operations and facilities. Leaders provides and oversees functional, safe and clean learning environment. That's the basic responsibility of a leader. So if you are planning to take a future leadership role, be sure that these things should be seen by you as a leader. Then plans and procedures. Leaders establish structure and employ policies and processes that support students to graduate ready for college and careers. So see, for example, we have already talked about, we are talking about that the schools are the beds for the colleges. So if we are talking about in terms of schools, then they should prepare students for the colleges. And if we are talking about colleges, they should talk about the industry. So we should talk about industry-ready graduates. Graduates who can immediately and directly can be employed by the industry and they can take other careers. Climate 3C, leader facilitates safe, fair and respectful environments that meet the intellectual, linguistic, cultural, social, emotional and physical needs of each learner. Every student should be seen from this perspective. 3D, three have got fourth part, the D, fiscal and human resources. The financial part is very, very important for any institutions. So leader align fiscal and human resources and manage policies and contractual agreements that build a productive learning environment. So financial understanding about the operations, okay, is very, very important for education leaders. So one should not go away from cash book, from other accounting terminologies, credit, debit, you have to understand. And at the end of the year, you have to prepare different documents and then balance sheet. So you have to understand. And similarly for human resource also, if you have a different plans for growth of the institutions, you need humans for that. And you have to have the human resource plan with you. Element 4 is again 4A as a parents and family engagements. Family and community engagement is very important for education institutions. Education leaders collaborate with families and other stakeholders to address diverse student and community interest and mobilize community resources. So parents and family engagement, part A would be that leaders meaningful involvement with all parents and families, including underrepresented communities in the students' learning and support programs. Very important. And second is community partnership. So first is engagement, second is partnership. Leaders establish community partnership that promote and support students to meet performance and content expectation and graduate ready for college and career. And the third is C is community resource and services. Leader leverage and integrate community resources and services to meet a variety need of students. As you all know, the community college concept is very popular in America, and the reason would be this, because they have been drawing so much resources from community itself and use it for the betterment of the community. Now, element 5th is reflective practices, ethics and integrity, which we have already seen in terms of standards. Education leaders make decisions, model and behave in ways that demonstrate professionalism, ethics, integrity, justice and equity, and hold staff to the same standards. So that is the another very important role which an academic leader has to see. It has got a certain parts like reflective practices. Leader act upon personal code of ethics that requires continuous reflection and learning. Okay, so that is the one important issue. And the second is ethical decision making. Leaders guide and support personal and collective actions that uses relevant evidence and available research to make fair and ethical decisions. So that's another important dimension. And then finally, ethical actions. Leaders recognize and use their professional influence with the staff and community to develop climate of trust, mutual respect, and honest communication necessary to consistently make fair and equitable decisions on behalf of all the students. And then finally, element 6, which has got 6A, understanding and community policy, communicating policy. which is called as external context and policy. Education leader influence political, social, economic, legal, and cultural context affecting education to improve education policies and practices. Understanding and communicating policy. Leaders actively structure and participate in opportunities that develop greater public understanding for education policy environment. And professional influence. Leaders use their understanding of social, cultural, economic, legal, and political context to shape policies that lead to all students graduating ready for college and career. And then finally, policy engagement as 6C. Leader engage with policymakers and stakeholders to collaborate on education policy focused on improving education for all the students. See the difference. Here we are talking about policy engagement. But if today, if you are talking about to any of the college principal or a leader, probably he will start complaining you that the local leaders are bothering him. See, that is the difference of perception. Rather than seeing that as a botheration, you have to convert their involvement as an engagement. So once that starts happening, you are not finding that as a problem, that you start finding as an opportunity, great opportunity, because they themselves are coming to you. So definitely you listen to them and definitely tell your issues with them, sit with them, spend time with them, take them to the other stakeholders. And I'm sure that many of the people who are maybe sitting in this classroom as a leader and probably having that kind of a problem can understand that this challenge can definitely be converted into a great opportunity. And this is nothing isn't a policy engagement. So this is all I have to tell you about this. Few more details regarding how we can use like how they have been doing it, especially in America. Standard one they are talking about vision. Developing a vision can be measured based on several characteristics. Implementation of vision statement can be measured by leaders' knowledge and articulation of the specific need, faults, weakness, and strength of school identity critical individuals to foster vision, identify future trends, and written documents. So these are the different mechanisms which they have developed. As I said you before, that these standards are being used there for the assessment of the individuals into the system. And by that assessment only, they can identify whether a person is being sent for higher progression or not. Until and unless person is not being performed within those standards, they are not allowing a person to grow high. So what is needed in our country is that we should also need a such system in place. And if we have such system in place, probably we can definitely achieve the NEP 2020 in its spirit and intent. That is what has been talked in the policy itself also, that whatever we've been talking in the policy should be achieved in terms of its intent, its spirit and intent. So again, we have reached to the same point, the turning country into a global knowledge superpower or knowledge hub. But before that, I just want to know any query or questions, because I have been speaking almost an hour. So, and in my opinion that now this is the time I'll just ask you that am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you are.
So I've just stopped for a while in case of any query or question on whatever we have discussed so far.
Sir, may I ask a question, please?
Yes, Dr. Nirmala. Yes, Dr. Nirmala.
Yeah, I am Dr. Nirmala Diabri. I'm from Goa. What I wanted to know is these points which you put up now, these last 2 slides, where are they available? The matter for that.
There are different documents are there for your reference. I'll share you some of the documents. These are complete documents. If you can just refer them, they are you there in the internet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just type this. You will find them. Just type this professional standard for educational leaders.
Okay, sir.
Or you can type this NELP and ELCC. You can get different kinds of resources there in the Google. and you can start from anywhere. Many of the PDF documents are
So-
there.
So could you please put it on the link on the chat box, the names, so I can get it from there?
I'll just do it for yourself here only. In fact, I've been on other computer because my main computer where I've been doing this all is other. Anyway, many of the documents are readily available there. But anyway, I'll do this for you here. Can you see my screen? No, you cannot see. I'll just
No.
share my screen again. Anyway, anybody else who wants to ask questions related with any of these things? Dr. Nirmala, I'm just sharing my screen with you. Okay. I've just put this National Education Leadership Preparation here in the Google, and the very first document which you're finding is here. Okay.
Okay,
And
okay, sir.
this
I'll
is
get it.
2018 standards. You can see this is a very recent document, the complete
Okay.
PDF document. And I believe that this is a perfectly sufficient document to begin with. I have basically referred this document only here. I'm not gone any further details here. So you just refer that, probably sufficient information would be here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Now I'm opening for other questions also. So,
Hello, sir. Can I ask a question?
yeah, Ms. Joshi.
So, sir, my question to you is, how can a teacher be a leader? As in, like, there are a lot of teachers in a university. So how can every teacher become a leader on their own position?
See, that is what is the whole context of this session is that, in fact, if you remember in the very initial slides when I was talking about that, where I said that every leader, every teacher has to be a leader also. See, we have to understand that actually we are defining leader in a very limited context. Okay, when we say leader in Indian context, we immediately very different kinds of image emerge in our mind. It's not that leader. It's not a political leader we are talking about. Leader has got many more qualities. It's not only that. Politics is only one area where leaders have been very active. But the idea here is, especially the new education policy 2020 is talking about that the teachers should now have a much wider role. Actually, this whole document has been redefining the teacher's role, and it has been taking teachers from away from the classroom. They say that you are already there in the classroom, you have been teaching, and you have seen that many things are not happening as per your wishes and desires. Okay, if you talk to any teacher, you are finding there are so many complaints about the system. This is because we are not involved ourselves into the execution. So the whole idea of new education policy is that the teacher should become an executor also. Go and do it. Maybe in a smaller scale, do it. Take your students also along with you and then do it. And especially do it with your community, local community. Go and talk to them. Ask them that whatever I'm teaching in my class, is it relevant? And then you get the answer that yes, what you are doing right in the class is relevant, is good. Otherwise, they will make you good suggestions. Ki, sir, why you are teaching this? This has absolutely no relevance for us. Please don't teach. And that is the whole idea, that over a period of time that the teacher starts involving in every domain of life. And probably, definitely, teacher will be a prime minister one day of India, and probably then he can solve every problem in this country, isn't it?
Yes, sir. So it is genuinely very important for a teacher to be a leader. For all the students, they can become a leader with our examples. And genuinely very enjoyed your lecture. If there are any other questions, please ask right now.
I have a question.
Yes, Akanksha.
Sir, you talked about education and suboptimal governance in institutions.
No, Akanksha, I have not talked about. This has been mentioned in New Education Policy 2020. That I said.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So basically, that was what I wanted to ask. We have, sir, NBA, NAC, and now we have this NEP. Then you talked about NELP also. So we have so many standards and guidelines. So wouldn't it become very cumbersome for people to get through all those standards? And I'm not talking about the already A+ certified institutions. the ones which are not doing so well, sir? If they want to improve and not to shut down, what should they do?
Akanksha, good questions from a practical perspective. Okay. See, when we are talking about evolving a system, okay, and that too in a complex system, it always a very, very challenging task. Okay. See, try to understand. Education is one of the very sensitive industry. If you are talking about business perspective, education is not normal other industry. It is not a manufacturing of a television or a computer set. Okay, it is basically a dealing with human beings. So obviously, if say for example, by some means or some standard, if somebody is not performing or doing its duty properly, why should others be pay a price throughout his life? And that is the whole issue of education industry. Are you getting a point, Akanksha? So education industry is a very sensitive industry, and in my opinion, whatever I have learned and seen outside India also, that bringing change into the education system is very, very challenging. It's not that easy because it's service industry. It is basically handling humans. It's not handling with other things, other raw materials. It's not that simple to change the industry overnight. It takes too much time, very large time. See, accreditation was a very new concept for India. Accreditation was introduced in India hardly 10 years back, 20 years back, whereas that was introduced in America in 1920. So you can understand their experience and learning regarding accreditation is much higher than you and me. And that is the reason why, if you're talking about the best education system, if you're finding that most of the American universities are there. Because they have understood, they have made people responsible, even within the education industry also, that you're responsible for your actions. And that is what we are also doing here in India. But as I said, you said that any kind of system, when you are bringing into an industry which is very sensitive, dealing with human life, having a very long gestation time, needs a lot of patience and preparations, and you can bring it only by bringing it smaller changes every year and every time. Okay, that is what we have been doing it. As far as different institutions are concerned, obviously NAAC and NBA, there are two Indian institutions. Okay, the third one is basically an American institution, so don't worry about that. That's not for you right now. But obviously, why we are going for an accreditation of Indian education system, why we are talking about quality of Indian education system, because ultimately we want to integrate Indian education system with the global education system. Because what we can see the future of human life on this globe, on this earth, is that in future, probably 50 years down the line or 100 years down the line, probably national boundaries are going to be irrelevant. Okay, you can move from any part of the world to any part of the world. So ultimately, those who are skillful at their hands would be valued at that point of time. See, what is happening in India, in a country like India, which is going to be the most populous country in the world in just next few decades. I think a best investment would be on the human resource, so that your people can go to any part of the world and they can work and they can be recognized as a great professional. And that starts happening. This is the reality in America. See, if we are getting the respect and attention from American system because we are a polished professionals, and this is happening because whatever the strength, maybe that strength is coming from our background as an Indians, because Indians have a very different value system. Now what we wanting is that now we want to bring those strengths to the system. That the system should be so strong that anybody coming out of the system should be good professional. And for that, actually, we have been doing this whole exercise of accreditation and through NBA and NAAC. Okay, but as I said, accreditation is a very complex process, which is involving many stakeholders. So right now, we have been just trying to evolving a system. Okay, so Akanksha, when you are evolving a system, when you are in a very sensitive industry, when you are in education industry, when you are handling human life, you have to be sensitive enough, okay, and you have to now be very careful also. So probably if you're finding it very complex, probably it is because of that, Akanksha. I hope I have tried to answer your question.